I see it's 1300 CET, so let's start. Welcome everybody in this CSRD webinar on infrastructure. The household note is that this webinar is recorded, so that you take notice of it. Afterwards, you all get a link to the recordings, so you can send it through to others or listen it and see it again. My name is Giel Jurgens, and I work at Port of Rotterdam, but today I am your host, but on behalf of the NVDO and the EFNMS, the European Federation of National Maintenance Societies, in which I have a role in the Asset Management Committee, but today especially also for the Sustainability Committee. So welcome everybody on this webinar on CSRD, Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, if I remember it correctly. And we're going to learn about this from our first speaker. And our first speaker is from SDU. And I'd like to give the floor to Chantal.
Thank you very much, Giel. I will check my settings and share my screen.
Yes, we see it. The floor is yours.
You see my presentation now?
I see something with a beach and two people on it.
That's good.
Okay.
Just to check. Well, welcome all today. My name is Chantal de Groot, and in the next couple of 15 minutes or so, I will take you on ESG journey or CSRD journey, and the opportunities also that it brings. First of all, I will start to tell you a little bit more about the CSRD in general. But I think it's also very important to use this time to show you how you can use this directive as an opportunity for your organization to work on your future company existence and the profitability. So let's start. These are the topics that I will tell you something about. So I will tell you something about the CSRD in general. Picked out the materiality analysis because that's a very important part of the CSRD directive. And then in the last couple of minutes, I will tell you something more about the opportunities because I think that it is more than just new legislation. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Chantal de Groot. I'm account manager at SDU. And you see here also my colleagues Esther van Doesburg and Janine Heemskerk. I've added Esther and Janine because they hosted the live version of the CSRD Roadshow that we held yesterday at the Spoorwegmuseum in Utrecht. And they will also host the upcoming live events. And I will be responsible for the webinars. At SDU, I'm responsible for the sales activities that concern our complete ESG portfolio. But besides our products, we also have a lot of CSRD knowledge in-house. So that's also why you will find us at several events, well, more as a thought leader. Then a small part about SDU and who are we? We are located in The Hague. We have over 330 people working here at the location in The Hague. But SDU is also part of a family company, Lefebvre Sarru, and our headquarters is based in Paris. We are with the total group active in 8 countries, and we have around 2,600 employees, I think, working in total within the complete group. Within the Lefebvre Sarru group, we have 2 focus areas at the moment, AI, artificial intelligence, and ESG. And today I will tell you more about the ESG part. Our group's mission, to tell you something more about that, is to make knowledge available for a fairer and more efficient and sustainable society. And that's also why we're active in ESG and CSRD. Well, because of our international background, we also have developed an international strategy concerning ESG and CSRD. And we also have to report ourselves as a group. But that also makes us an interesting partner to collaborate with, I think. So I want you just to say yes, and maybe you think that we spelled yes incorrectly. But yes stands for the journey to epic sustainability. Like we developed that in our portfolio. And yes is what you have to say to the CSRD. But when you say yes to the directive itself, you also say yes to sustainability and a better future in a way. And I will show you how in the next couple of minutes. So let's start. And I will start with ESG, because where does this all come from? ESG is a framework that focuses on social, governance, and environmental aspects of an organization. And that concept is derived from the triple bottom line, maybe better known as people, planet, and profit. And before I tell you more about the directive, or so the CSRD itself, I wanted to start with ESG because this is the overarching theme. And this is important to know because the reporting standards are classified up onto this framework. So that's very important to know that you know where the ESG theme comes from. Then the next slide. I will not try to scare you, but this picture shows the complexity and the quantity of the European legislation at the moment. And I can assure you there's more to come. But it also shows how many laws and regulations are heading towards us. And here on the left side, somewhere down below, you find the CSRD. This landscape has one thing in common, and that's sustainability. It's all about sustainability in this landscape. And if you understand that sustainability is the core of all this, then your focus actually has to be on how to incorporate sustainability into your business strategy. So that is actually the opportunity that I can already present you now, where you can use the CSRD for. So that's the question that I want to drop here. Think about what your focus is going to be. Determine your sustainability strategy and use the CSRD as a guide for that incorporation. So I will leave that there with you. And this is a slide where you can see the other earlier sustainability initiatives and maybe the Sustainable Development Goals, so the SDG or the GRI are more known. The IFRS are already existing standards, and these standards all and these regulations all have a relation with the CSRD. Only the big difference is that they weren't mandatory, and the CSRD is. So let's start with the CSRD. What does it mean? It stands for the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. And at this slide, you can see what it includes in a nutshell. So let me take you a little bit deeper into this matter. The CSRD aims to ensure greater transparency about better quality of sustainability information. So I just showed you in the regulatory slide that this is a EU initiative, and that means that all EU countries have to follow this new legislation. Small disclaimer, it's also possible for countries to introduce stricter regulations. So France is a good example of that. All the involved countries have the chance to adjust the directive with stricter regulations or integrate the directive as is. The deadline, I think, for this is set this summer. June or July. Then, why was it established? Well, it is established to increase transparency, and it will also be an annual report. And you have to deliver the data digitally. So it all will be also publicly disclosed. This last remark, I think, is very important for the realization on what the effect will be on the value chain later on. Because I think it can include or exclude you from the value chain in the longer term. And that's exactly one of the important reasons why the CSRD is established. It brings back the responsibility to the companies, and well, hopefully it will set you to thinking about the sustainability choices that you make. Then another reason also why this directive is established is the goal to achieve the carbon neutral goal in 2050. Another important note is that the report will be audited by your accountant. So the accountant of your company will be very important for the validation of your CSRD report. I think in the next couple of years, well, we expect, and I talk to a lot of accountants also, that they will check the process and not yet the content of it. So my advice is just start small. Then the audits that the accountants have they can take place, and they can check your process. And for now, I think that's good enough. The accountant must provide it by limited assurance. So that's why I think that process will be very important. Then the main disclosure requirements are very important. These are based on the ESRS, and that stands for the European Sustainability Reporting Standards. And this is actually the framework on which the CSRD, so the directive, is built on. What does it say? Well, companies have to prepare their ESG information, so the environment, social, and governance, and there it is, in accordance with the European Sustainability Reporting Framework. I will show you in a minute what this framework includes, so don't worry. Another main disclosure requirement is the double materiality. And that's something that a lot of companies find very difficult, and that's why I will tell you later on a little bit more about this. But companies shall identify the ESG matters that are material to its stakeholders using the double materiality. Excuse me. And then the last but not least is one of the disclosure requirements. One of the important requirements is the policy targets and the action plan and the resources. So you have to create policies, and you have to implement them to manage the ESG matter. You have to have measurable targets against the policies. You have to make actions, action plans, and resources in relations to the policies and the targets. So in a nutshell, this is a lot of work. That's what it says. But that's why I also say to every client that I talk to, start small, because it's not that difficult, but it's a lot. And a lot of companies already have a lot of data and reports in-house. So you just have to gather it to one point to make it to and to convert it into a CSRD report. Let's dive into the framework. So these are the standards that you have to report on. And as you can see, we have a framework that contains different parts. So I will start at the top. The already published data is the standards are the ESRS 1 and the ESRS 2. And that concerns general principles and general disclosures. It is also said known better as the cross-cutting standards, if you're going to read into the ESRS framework. So that's a term that you will see. These standards, the first two, are relevant for every organization to report on. So then you will have the ESG teams, as you can see, so ESRS E1 until ESRS E5, the social teams, and the governance teams. This is where you find the ESG classification, like I told you a few slides back. The question, if you have to report on one of these topics or themes, has to do something with the double materiality, where I tell you something more about in the next slide. At the right side, you also have the coming later part. So that means there are also coming sector-specific standards. I believe they are expected in 2026. And there will also be small and medium-sized standards coming up later, I think around 2028. So that means that everyone in the value chain will somewhere meet something with meet the CSRD in a way, if you like it or not. So that answers the question, who will be impacted? Well, everyone, I think. You know, now something you know about the CSRD and its framework, but here you can see the roadmap and the total of amount of companies that have to report on this new directive. Well, you see that's around 50,000, but there are some stages for when it's your company's turn to report. So first, this year we started with the large listed companies that are already in the scope for another legislation, the NFRD. Next year is the second group. This is based on the following criteria. So you have to have 250 employees, a turnover of 50 million euros, and more than 25 million on your balance sheet. If you tick 2 out of 3 of these boxes, then you are in this group that you have to report over the year 2025. In 2026, the directive will apply to the SMEs with more than 250 employees. In the ESRS framework, we saw that there is also a slimmed version for smaller companies on the way. So you see that this roadmap is just the beginning. What also is very important to realize is the value chain that I've mentioned earlier on. So if you are a small company and your clients or suppliers are obligated to report in the next following years, then you will have to take into account that they will come up with questions about your products and services and that you deliver to them. So, for example, what your carbon footprint is of the products that you deliver them. This is the data they need to gather within the value chain and which they need to report on. It's better known as Scope 3 in the ESRS framework. So this means that even though you're not obligated to report right away, that there still is a very big chance that you will be CSRD involved. So maybe your salespeople already received some questions from suppliers or clients. That's a possibility. I dropped a question earlier to think about what your sustainability strategy will be. Well, to determine this strategy, you can use the sustainability ladder as shown here. I will explain a little bit more about the ladder. 0 at the bottom is ignoring what is happening. But for the CSRD obligated companies, this is not one of the possibilities anymore, so you can skip that. And step 5 is the aim to become, well, like I said, a purpose-driven organization. So then you maybe want to become the Tony Chocolonely of the world. You really have sustainability in your core as and value-driven. This choice will help you in the rest of your journey with the CSRD implementation. So that's very important. It also is helpful to use this ladder to determine where you stand right now. So where are you now and where do you want to go? If you know what your strategy will be, you can make choices regarding the way you want to implement the CSRD. If you choose for compliancy, you want your focus on how you can make this an efficient process for your organization. But if you choose for sustainable leadership or a purpose-driven organization, then your focus besides efficiency will also be on change management and how you can implement sustainability in the core of your business and employees. So that's very important in the choice of how you want to implement and use the CSRD. Then the main steps of the implementation of the CSRD. The first step are the general disclosures. So you have to make a plan of action. You have to do something with stakeholder management internally, but also externally. You have to do something with the double materiality. You have to make a gap analysis, and you have to have a strategy and set some goals and targets. Second thing you have to think about is the actual implementation, and this concerns a lot of data. So you have to do something with zero measurement, KPI settings, a lot of data gathering around carbon footprint, but also the environmental footprint of your products and your services as a whole. So you have to tell something about energy, water, pollution, biodiversity. So not only your carbon footprint will be enough for the CSRD implementation. So for this, it's really good to set up a recurrent process of data collection, because you have to do this every year. The third step is the reporting part. So you have to extract a lot of non-financial data, and how you're going to do that, and you have to make it somehow a little bit financial, or to make zero measurement. So you can use, for example, LCA tooling for that, life cycle analysis tooling. And you have to integrate the non-financial with the financial data in an annual report. So maybe the CFO is quite busy in your organization already with the first steps and the implementation of the CSRD, because most of the times he's one of the first persons in the organization that will start with the CSRD. Then the most difficult part, I think, about the double materiality that I wanted to explain a little bit more about today. This is one of the most important steps within the general disclosures. Because of the complexity, I want to explain a little bit more about this. Basically, it says that you have to clarify the impact that you have with your company on people, on the environment, also known as the inside out impact. But you also have to report on the financial impact that the environment can have on your organization. And this is an outside in impact. So, for example, if your factory is somewhere located in an earthquake area, what will be the financial impact on your organization when an earthquake hits you? So that makes it a very complex part of the CSRD. These are the main steps of the double materiality that you have to take. So you have to make a long list of the potential material ESG issues. So that means that within the ESRS framework, you saw topics like environment, pollution, water, but also social and the governance topics. You have to determine with internal stakeholders and external stakeholders which themes are material, so important for your organization. You have to choose the topics and report on the topics which you choose. So, for example, if you have a very large impact on the E1, so the environmental issues, then you have to report on the environmental issues within the ESRS framework. Then you also have another step is you have to take an assessment of ESG issues after you made the long list. So you have to describe the impact and the risk or the opportunity and determine the likelihood or the duration and the severity of it. After that, you have to prioritize the material ESG issue. So you see that you have a lot of steps you have to take to determine which themes are material for your organization. But these are the first steps that you have to take. Here you can see an example of the long list of the ESG topics. They're small, but I think we will send the presentation later on, so you can take a look at it a little bit closer if you have the time. Here you can find all the topics and how you can create a long list that are related with that topics. And if some topics are not material for you, then you don't report on it. But your accountant will say if the rest of companies in the same area, in the same working area, do report on pollution and you don't, then your accountant will have to ask you some questions because of why you didn't choose that material topic as a theme. So that's very important to think about. The opportunities, the last part of my presentation. I think it's very important if you start with the implementation of the CSRD that you create insights. If you create insight, then you create overview. In overview, you really need to implement this big, large new legislation if you want to structure this. So your strategy of all this will become your lifeline. If you focus, like I said, on sustainability as a whole and not only the CSRD as just one of the new many legislations, then your approach will be different and so will be your outcome. So remember, if you make a choice, then you have the control, and if you have the control, then you have overview. We at Sdu believe that sustainability is the new currency, and that's something that I wanted to take up with the new with the opportunities that it can give you. Sustainability is the new currency means as much as if you incorporate sustainability in your company strategy, and you will secure your company existence, but also your profitability, like I said. If you choose that strategy, you want to stay in control. And if you want to stay in control, you will need a couple of things. And that contains training, education for your employees to make sure that you have the right level of and the same level of knowledge and expertise. But you also need some tooling and software. And that's my last slide. For 1 second, I will tell you something more about our products. Here you see that we have YES returns again. So we have a portfolio under the name The Journey to Up Epic Sustainability. So we have a special designed education program. So we have ESG training for everyone in the organization. So the management team, but all sales, doesn't matter. We have YES Knowledge. It's a knowledge base to help you understanding and implement the ESG and legislation and standards. Yes, workflow helps you to collaborate with clear governance. So it's a work management tool. And yes, eData is actually in one sentence an LCA tool that helps you to understand the environmental impact of product and processes. If you want to know more about that, you can contact me. But for now, this was my part of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Chantal. Are there any questions? Perhaps.
Jaakko here. Just a short question. I was just wondering, that if there are, on what level this reporting need to be done? Obviously, there must be, different level, very precise, and a little bit on the upper level. Or is there a definition for this?
It will be put with
how deep you have to go, how extensive that must be, and stuff like.
Like I said, the accountant will be responsible to set a signature, so he will validate the process. And that's something for the first couple of years that will be enough, because we all have to get the time to dive a little bit more into this deep matter, because later on it will be much stricter and deeper. So you have to really deep dive in your organization and the impact that you have with your organization as a whole on the environment and the people. First, that's why I told a couple of times in the presentation, start small. Just pick 1, 2, maybe 3 themes that are material for your organization and go work with that. There are, I think, 1,144 data points in total within the CSRD. I saw a framework of the double materiality analysis of Philips. They ticked 940 topics, I believe. My advice is for your organization, start small and do what you first need to do, and you find material that will be enough for the first couple of years.
Does this thing mean for accountants? I think it's also something new for them. Does it?
Yes, it is. Yes. Well, they're a little bit panicked, I think. They are used to gather and validate financial data. And this is a very different part. This contains a lot of non-financial data. So what you see within the accountants, that they are also joining new education, and they have to they have to learn all over again, because this is something new. And non-financial data will be the gold of the organization in the near future, I think. They can see it as an opportunity also, but for a lot of accountants at this point, that's quite I don't think they're there yet.
At least the smaller companies or one-man companies, I think they will face some difficulties with this issue.
But also the big four are, they have difficulties with it, of course.
Sure. Thank you for your question, Jaakko, and for your answer, Chantal. I would like to propose to go to our next speaker. I hope I pronounce it correct. Javier Serra.
Yes, that's me.
Yes, well, great. Javier, the floor is yours. And would you please introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. My name is Javier. First of all, I want to apologize about Claudio. That was the one that was supposed to share this little presentation with you. But he has other responsibilities, and I'm in charge now. And Also, in expectation management, I know I'm an expert in CSRD. So today, the perspective of Claudio was to make an approach about the impact of the whole asset management model, and how can we impact in all SG targets, not just the CSRD. Okay. So, as you know, Claudio is not just the gas asset general manager of Enagás. He's also the president of the National Maintenance Association in Spain, and has this point of view about how can we impact, how can we change our mindset from the classical asset management models to a holistic point of view in terms of SEG, and how can we impact in these results. Okay, so the presentation is it tries to relate both fields. I don't know if I'm sharing correctly.
We see it right now, Javier.
Yeah, okay. So here is the story about the development of our asset management model. And I am going to try to highlight in which moments we have begin to change this mindset, and how have we introduced this mindset of a more holistic sustainability point of view of the company in the asset management classical policies. Okay. So first of all, just for understand, Enagás is the TSO of the natural gas system in Spain. So we operate and maintenance the gas natural transport facilities, 6 regasification plants, more than 12,000 kilometers of pipelines, 19 compressor stations, and 3 underground storage. Okay, so we operate and manage them, and we have a very specific development since 2008. The development of the facilities was quite slow, and the demand of natural gas in Spain was quite high. So we have a really capacity limitation in which we were focused just in maintain and produce the natural gas as we could, because we have to deliver the service to the customers. Okay, so we were really focused on just produce, not ESG in any moment. Okay, when the crisis begins, we begin to think a little bit. Well, obviously we have exceeded the demand with the capacity of the facility, so we could begin to think of saving some costs. It was something very easy in that moment. We really know when to look for these savings. But after 2012, we begin to think on how can we add some value to the company, because obviously the company is focused on asset managers, and we can do many things for the rest of the company. So we begin to think in develop a whole asset management model. It's very focused on maintenance. What is the costs are really heavy in our field in oil and gas, and we adapt a whole model of maintenance taken from a company of Spain called Ingeman. It's an association for the development of maintenance engineering. We make a partnership with them, and we adapt this model to oil and gas standards. And it's really interesting because from the beginning, this model was aligned with in that moment, the PAS 55, now the ISO 55001, which has also take very care about these links to the other areas of the company, in this case with the HAG specifically. And now recently, the last month, we have received this certification. We are one of the first companies in Spain, and in terms of midstream, and the first one in receive this certification. So we are very happy of that. And we thought that this holistic point of view has been very important in reach this target. Okay. What is interesting in this model that we have applied in Enagás is that in every phase, in every step of the model, you apply specific technologies that from the beginning are thought just for maintenance, but as we are going to see now, they have a lot of secondary effects in our results in terms of ESG. In the initial phase of this development, we are more focused on what we call the effectiveness, not to avoid incidents, to take a good base for the rest of the model, to ensure that all the policies that we develop are centered in the strategical point of view of the company, and obviously since the beginning of Enagás, the safety and the environmental point of view has been in our deep core thoughts. So first of all, we realized that we need a strong base of criticality analysis. So we made a really deep project of 3 years in which we assessed every detail item of our company with this methodology, the criticality analysis. And it was interesting because when the partnership came to develop this methodology, we're mainly focused on costs, on availability, on quality of services. So for us, it was very important to introduce the safety and the environment as really important criteria factors in this criticality matrix. It was really different in what other companies were doing at that moment. We are thinking about 14, 12 years ago, and was really different for us. So it was the main point for our operators when they realized that there were other work, not just the cost and the point of view. So all our maintenance policies nowadays are based on the results of this matrix, as we are going to see after that. In that moment, we also make other adaptations to begin to create this whole model with the redesign of the processes, not just aligned for the ISO 55001, but also to the body of knowledge of the IAM.org, that is the National Association of the Great Britain and the United Kingdom, sorry. And in that body of knowledge, they are also very focused on align not just the asset management procedures, but also the rest of the corporative procedures of the company. We are going to see after that. In a second phase, and we begin to take some of these efficiency results, but as I said previously, with that point of view of impacting of the areas of the company. In the maintenance, as we said, we begin to adapt all our maintenance plans from the results of this matrix. We have implemented 3 specifically methodologies. Well, the root cause analysis from heavy incidents, that is quite common. But it's interesting because we also, for saving costs, we also have the risk of optimization, which basically means to try to less not the minimum, but the optimal maintenance to non-critical assets. And it's really tough to align the concept of criticality with from a safety perspective. No? And for us has been really interesting align this concept from safety and maintenance. How are we aligned now when we take a decision? Even the safety department is integrated when we have to modify what we call a working task item. What is the document in which we say what we have to do to every element in the company? Safety is integrated, no? And that's going to be a huge impact in our results. Also, we have made a huge project for optimize our spare parts and warehouse. That, as I've see a little bit, is going to be also impacting the CSRD because in the end, sometimes we turn these spare parts into a waste management because we don't use it properly, or even we can make some innovation in looking for a new kind of spare parts. It's going to be really interesting in the few years for that. And we also begin to implement the development of BI analytic tools that in our company begin here in the area of maintenance or asset management. And nowadays we are beginning to integrate to report in terms of emissions, of ventings, and now we are integrating all the IT tools to be able to integrate any kind of data related with the asset manager, not just financial, not just technical, that we have in our CMMS that is based on SAP for HANA nowadays, but also many other IT tools that are every year more focused on the environmental targets, for example, in terms of fugitive emissions, in terms of venting or any kind of leaks. That for us is really important. And in the last year, we have been focused in this what we call maturity phase and we are thinking now in how we are going to be able nowadays to optimize not just the maintenance but the operation, because if we are able to optimize the operation, we are able to have less consumes of natural gas, of electricity. We are going to be able to enlarge the life cycle of our assets, using less spare parts, using more time our heavy equipment. So we have developed specific methodologies at the Asset Health Index that has been adapted from the DNO of United Kingdom for our high capitality assets. So we now have a monthly report about the state of them, if we are operating them correctly, if we are enlarging or shortening the life cycle of them. And we are now working on optimize the moment in when we have to reinvest with the COPEX in for that assets. No, that is going to be also very interesting. We have begun with some pilots of AI, machine learning techniques, trying to determine what is the normal pattern of functioning of our assets, and if we are able to optimize these consumes of the high equipment. And also we are trying to take them all the solution to our operators with an adaptation on our CMMS. In that moment where they are going to be able to see directly which kind of reports the company are going to say, as we say previously, fugitive emissions, venting, all these things that sometimes are far away from them in terms of reporting or in terms of sustainability, they are going to be really close to them. Well, in terms of results, we have three main results, no? And the last one is going to be the more close to what we are talking today. First, obviously economical. This project has really good economical results because you are going to be able to have a lot of efficiency, not directly just in the maintenance budget, but also in the consumes. Obviously, now we have a really strong asset management model. Is certified by a third party and is going to be the base for the development or even the concurrency of many other certifications. But as we say, we have linked very directly the impacts of our O&M model with the results and the global results of the company. No? For example, we have here some of the key projects that we have related directly. For example, we have received maintenance and operation procedures, no, to avoid emissions and improve the boil of gas management here in our regasification plants that are at 160 minus degrees. And if we don't manage correctly, the product, they begin to be methane emissions. So we have changed maintenance and operation procedures to improve it directly. We are working really heavily in this life cycle extension because we really think that we are able to optimize in the capex and the copex of the company, enlarging these life cycles, and even being able to make possible the repurposing of the natural gas facilities for other uses, for example, the hydrogen nowadays, no? And that's been possible because we have worked really heavily on that. The methodologies, as I've said, as Health Index, allow us to monitorize directly these consumes if we are working in the proper operation point of our assets. If we are able, even sometimes you prefer to force the operation, but you are going to be able less emissions. And we have these little dashboards of every asset that allow us to optimize this whole point of view, not just the electrical cost, not just what is going to be the maintenance, but also if we are able to avoid some emissions, for example. We have also worked really heavily in terms of fugitive emissions. We have been leader in some of the aspects of how can we measure and control these emissions. And now we are working to adapt a really important law that is going to be approved for that. Also, the increase of mid-time between maintenance. As I said, not just to avoid costs for maintenance area, because if we are able to do for example, an overhaul, not just in, I don't know, 20,000 hours of working of our plant to 25,000, we are avoiding and we are trying to measure even the impact of avoid to use some spare parts. These heavy equipment have really important spare parts in terms of materials, in terms of construction them. And if we are able to increase these times, we are able to impact directly in our carbon footprint. And what we are currently working really heavily now is in the improvement of electrical and gas consumption through these monetization projects. The key here is to have a really good IT development in your company. Now we are working, as I've said, in IA, trying to be in partnership with other companies or associations in Spain. There is a really important one called Indesia, which is a partnership of really good, huge companies like Inditex, like Repsol, many other, and trying to be together in the development of these technologies and especially to be practical in the application and in terms of impact. So, thank you very much. As I said, here probably is not a technical presentation as usual from a CSRD, but yeah, we want to highlight that many other factors on the company, especially asset managers, have a really deep impact on that, and we have to think on that.
Thank you very much, Javier. Are
Thanks
there
to
any
you.
questions from the participants?
I have a question.
First, Chantal, go ahead.
I always have questions.
Fire. No.
No, I was wondering, how does your because you have a very structured asset management model, how does it help you in your reporting stage later on for the CSRD?
Well, nowadays, because the CSRD, even for us in an asset management perspective, is quite new. No, I know that our ESG corporative department is more close to that. But in our case, because we have first of all, we have a deep knowledge about because in terms of reporting, also the IT tool is important and how to integrate and how we are going to be able to build these dashboards. Nowadays, we have this knowledge about the BI tools and how we are related all the IT systems. For example, all the instrumentation we have to deal with the direct operational aspects like venting or whatever, we have integrated also. So I think that this holistic point of view is going to allow us in a whole perspective. Specifically, for me, it's been new even. Thanks Chantal for your presentation, because it's been really new for me to know how close is that for us and how it's going to be really important for us.
I see a lot of opportunities for asset management as a whole to add much more value to asset management in the organizations as a whole due to the CSRD reporting.
Yeah. And for us, I also think it's very important that not from headquarters, but from operators is not new, no? Because they have been reporting from 2 years, for example, the venting. So now they are more concerned about, okay, we have to take care of that. Not just the availability of my asset. No, the availability of my assets has a secondary effect that I have to take into account. And I think we have this step forward, but also we have to develop many things.
Yeah, that's what the CSRD does. It maybe scares a lot of people because of because of how much it is. But actually, that's what I already said. You have a lot in-house already. So you have a lot of data. So you just have to gather it and put it all together.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just translate, no? Maybe the language of the ESG is not the same of the asset management world, but if you are able to translate, you're going to have something really easy.
Great. Are there any other questions? Perhaps it's possible that I have a question yet for you, Javier, because reporting is one thing, but being sustainable is the ultimate goal, of course. And how do you use, for instance, your machine learning or your AI not only to be to optimize your asset utilization or your cost control, but also for optimization of your sustainability or your emissions? Is that already in place, or?
No, for example, well, yeah, we have some pilots, and for me, for example, is really interesting. We made like little lots about the use of specific assets. Like 5-6 years ago, we began with that because we have problems with emissions, as I said, no, with low levels of emissions of natural gas, we have to make really low use of some equipment, and our plants begin to be hit. If the plants begin to hit, you have to emit. So we have to have the exact point of make the items work in terms of not emissions, but not to damage them, no? And we create like a little dashboard. Okay, in what was the limit, economical and sustainability terms, like an well, the concept now is more present that it's like an eco score. Is not our design in that moment, but just to say, okay, economically and in terms of emission and in terms of what is the best performance of that specific asset in that moment. And sometimes it's to damage the equipment because you know that you are gonna last 5 years less using in that operational model, but you are gonna emit, for example, less CO2 or less methane to the atmosphere. So we have this thought in our minds in order to operate perfectly the assets.
Great. Okay, then I want to give the floor to Ian for just one last slide you wanted to present, Ian.
Yes, as Chantal spoke about earlier, we had a brilliant session yesterday here in the Netherlands with the CSRD infrastructure. And I wanted just to quickly share with you what is a little bit of an outcome of that, because we had a live cartoonist draw up this visual, as you can see here. And he will be implementing some notes of today as well into the visual that will lead eventually from the 4 live sessions in the Netherlands and the 4 online sessions to one big visual that we will be presenting at Euro Maintenance in the second half of this year. And it is a great, little visual to have some insights and to in one view see some of the big discussion points we already have. So I just wanted to share this really quick and do the honors of thanking Javier, sorry, Chantal and Giel for their participation today, for their presentations, for their moderating. And I wanted to thank you all on behalf of NVDO, EFNMS, and Sdu, of course. And if you're interested in learning a little bit more on the CSRD, then I will be sure to guide you to the calendar on www.nvdo.nl. Because, as I said, we will have 3 more sessions from 3 different sectors: the process industry, manufacturing, and the built environment. So thank you all once again. And I'm not sure if you have anything more to say, Giel.
Perhaps one final word. Thanks to all presenters today, Javier and Chantal. And I wanted to mention that there is a place where people can find this recording back. Will you send them an email with the link to that?
Definitely. Yes? You will receive the email with the link in it by this time tomorrow, I think.
Okay. And this recording will also be placed on the websites of the NVDO and the EFNMS.
Yes, it will be public, so everyone can watch it back. Definitely.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody for joining. And thanks again, Javier and Chantal, for your presentations.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye. You're welcome.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.